It's that time of year where you are hunting trophies, whether they have the AFC logo on them or that nice, really tall one with the ball on top. You're hunting trophies. That's what we're here for. And it's a primetime game for Patrick Mahomes. This is going to be maybe the most epic AFC championship game that we've seen since the 13-second game because so much rides on these quarterbacks. Welcome to RGR football. We're getting ready for the culmination of the AFC schedule of the season. We'll talk about what happens after that. After that, he's Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy. This is RGR football. We're going to take a look in depth today about what we see as the matchups that you have to win. Who are the key players that can be X factors in this ball game, and how does it evolve? Conditions are changing. What we thought was going to be warm the other day is going to be a little bit colder. I think around the 40-ish is what I'm seeing, and a heavy dose of rain. I don't know that plays into the kind of mauling run game that I think the Ravens want to use. So I think it is playing a little bit towards the Chiefs right now. Where do you stand on what the conditions are going to do right here?
We know that Patrick does not care about the elements when he throws the football. It doesn't matter. He will throw it. The problem will be catching the football. This week, I think that away locks them in a little bit better. I'm not super worried about the run game. I think that Pacheco will be fine. He's going to, I'm sure, take something before the game so that he can continue to push that ground away with his feet as much as humanly possible and continue to run people over. It's going to be, we also need to see someone step up, right? Someone in the wide receiver room has to. And we know that drops have been the plague of society for the Chiefs this year. You add a little bit of rain to that, and it doesn't make the problem go away. So that's one thing I'm interested about. Footing will be paramount, different cleats. I think that we've seen a couple of different times over the last few seasons where the cleats, the types of cleats that teams or players use that they bring to have those different ways of being able to cut or just maybe kind of flow through on the mud. Like a guy like Travis Kelce doesn't need to really hugely grip the ground. Like he doesn't need to have the best footing because he glides through in and out of his stuff. So he's probably going to be fine. So the weather changing like this, it should make for a very fun AFC Championship game. Maybe a little bit lower scoring than people want it to be. But at the end of the day, I don't know if you could ask for the Chiefs to play in a better weather type of game because they've played in very cold temperatures and they're going to have a nice little, 42 degree game and it's going to feel really nice to them, I think.
Yeah, I have to think so as well. Folks, welcome in. We are live on Red Friday afternoon getting ready for the AFC Championship game. We had to go a little bit early today, so if you're not catching us live, welcome in. Leave your comments below. We're going to run through what this game needs to look like and what's going to happen. We will be live post-game, a little bit delayed. I will be in the air until a good portion of it is already passed. So we'll be live after. Make sure that you check it out then and be with us because I feel pretty good about this. We're going to discuss our predictions later in the show and give you our takeaways. We'll try to get to a question or two. It's not going to be a huge question show this time. That's going to be after the postgame and on Monday nights like we always do. Because there's a lot going on here. And unfortunately, we have to talk about who won't be in this game. But if you would like and sub and hit the bell right here on this video, if you like the way we started, well, you certainly might as well be a subscriber. So get in there. And if you want all the extras, my game notes from last week went up today. You can get those in the memberships. Go ahead and click join and hit the rookie level or above, and you'll get that. We will have another member stream coming at you. It'll be kind of a special edition. So be ready for that as well. And a lot of content coming for you. I've got some of my grades. I've got about half the edges already done on the film grades for the draft class. NFL33.com. That's where you want to go. That's where Dan and I are going to post all of our content. The Athletic Matrix will still be coming and all that stuff, but that all feeds into what's going on in the NFL today. I'm going to try to get a story up today about some of the coaching changes. One in the AFC West that we all know should change the complexity of what's going on here.
Should be fun.
Going to be fun. And I like Oregon. You kind of tipped my hat here because I was just about to segue to what I am calling at this point the Midwest version of Grey's Anatomy, because right now that's what the Chiefs lineup looks like. The injury report is not friendly today, folks.
Yeah.
Derek Nottie is out, will not play in this game. Sky Moore is out. That's not much of a surprise. It was hopeful that Joe Tooney might be able to go. He is not. He's not playing. He will be out on the sidelines, as will Prince Tego Inaga, who just came up this week as well.
Yeah.
Those are significant. We have to start there. And unfortunately, it's 6-1 to me right now. The Ravens like to run downhill as much as they can. Derek Nottie is going to be missed. The Chiefs want to be able to run and throw the ball and get out on screens, and that's Joe Tooney's specialty. So that's a huge miss. Personally, I lean towards the offensive side is the bigger gap here. Where are you at?
Yes. And as much as I love Willie Gay, I think that they can still piece together a defense. They have good players. They have 3 linebackers that they can still rely on. The spy stuff will be different because Willie provides something that other players don't have. They just don't. They don't have that type of quick change of direction that he does, that he offers. It's a little bit different. So that's going to be difficult, but lots of players that the Chiefs have, smart players that know how to execute and get things done. I love Nick Allegretti. You guys know I scouted him. I thought he'd be a good player, and he's been a starter for this team. He's a good left guard, and he's going to be just fine in there. The problem for me comes with the communication. The reason that Donovan Smith and Joe Tooney and Wanya Morris really have done well together is because Joe Tooney is the most experienced left guard in the NFL and still an all-pro level player. You're losing that communication aspect. You're losing a little bit of his, just call it what it is, elite play. He's an elite player, and he covers things up. He can cover up some problems. And that with a guy who's been up and down, and Donovan Smith most of the year. Now, the last 2 games that he's played have probably been his best games as a Chief. That's awesome. He's going to have his best game on Sunday. This is no zero question about it. He has to have his best game as a Chief on Sunday. He needs to be the vet, and he also needs to step up for Nick Allegretti, who, again, I believe is a very good player, a very good backup. But again, we are talking about a backup who doesn't have that communication with Donovan Smith. Now, he did a fantastic job last week. He did. I would be willing to bet that the Ravens are going to have a better plan for him than the Bills did, he came in for an injured Joe Tooney. Things are a little bit different when you have an injury come in and someone comes in and you're just like, well, fine, we'll keep doing the same thing that we've been doing. The Ravens are going to do a little bit different things for Nick. But at the end of the day, Ryan and I were talking about this a little bit before. Neither of us agree or think that it's going to really impact the run game because Nick Allegretti comes from a Big Ten school. He will get downhill. He will move people. I think that is something we can count on. So it's a tough loss for the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. It's time for Donovan Smith and now Nick Allegretti to really step up.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you bring up the run game because if this were a normal year, if this were 2 years ago, I would say this was a bigger impact because Joe is great pass protecting. He certainly is. Nick is not that good. But they're very, very close in the run game. They don't do the same things. Nick Allegretti is not going to get out on the screens, cross the formation, and lead the way like we've seen Joe Tooney do the last few weeks. But this is, I think, plays into exactly what I want. I want to attack those linebackers straight down the pipe, and I want to come off the ball, and that's what Nick Allegretti does. So in terms of what I think this ball game has to have, part of the game plan was always going to be that you got to continue to have a steady diet, Isaiah Pacheco. You got to throw in some Clyde, but you got to attack them physically downfield, right straight ahead run. It doesn't matter whether it's gapped, whether it's just a simple man on man, hat on hat, and go kind of situation. I think they'll still have to mix in some zone. But I do think that probably, I don't know that we'll see 48% or whatever we saw the last couple of weeks total. But a lot of that is going to be up Allegretti's alley. So as long as that is functional, if they can get 4 yards of carry out of the run game, I think that still sets the offense up to use the play action effectively and try to limit just how exposed that B gap between Allegretti and Donovan Smith is. But you're absolutely right. It's a communication thing. It's a feel thing. And having both Donovan been in and out of the lineup and Nick in and out of the lineup, that is the big question. I will say this, though, in Nick Allegretti's defense, he would start on at least half the teams in this league right now.
Yeah.
So the fall off is not as precipitous.
No, he's
and I think that's what.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's the fact that people forget because of how good Joe Tooney is.
Yeah, and he did start the entire 2020 year. Like, we have an entire year of tape on Nick Allegretti, and he's a very good player. So he's going to be a free agent this year. You guys think a contract game, maybe 2 for Nick Allegretti, would bump him up and I got to get something done, because one,
Right?
the Chiefs are going to want to keep him, right? He's a very good player to have. Backup center, backup guard, comes in. He's a very good spot starter. Maybe if I have a career game against the Baltimore Ravens, I can get more out of the Chiefs, because I say, hey, I go test free agency, guys, and I know you want to keep me. So maybe I can work in a few more bucks here and there with this game. We also understand that in monetized incentive gets the best out of players. Look at Chris Jones in the last game of the season. Dude did not quit. He would not stop. He had 7 pressures in that first quarter. Like, don't forget that. That was legitimately Chris Jones doing that, which he has another, $1 million incentive to get to a Super Bowl. So there's that to consider as well. So Nick Allegretti has some money on the line today for a free agent, a backup who could earn a starting position out somewhere in the NFL, or as a backup here as the heir apparent maybe to Joe Tooney in a couple years. So there's something on the line for him to play for.
Yeah, and that goes a super long way. Looks like Trey Smith is back to normal. The problem here, Isaiah Pacheco is not an issue, as we understand. He's ready to go. They're just resting him. He did the walkthrough, not a problem. Everything should be good there. Yes, listen is questionable, but we don't have any doubt. It's Mike Edwards and Willie Gay. It's the guys that have to do a lot of the coverage tasks, and in particular, Willie being the prime guy. He's better than Drew Tranquil in change of direction, and he's way better than Leo. Give Leo credit. Leo can spy, but against a linear runner like Josh Allen, who's going to attack you vertically, that's not Lamar. Lamar is going to give you as many juke moves as he can. He's going to run around circles, much like Pat. He changes directions too quickly for any linebacker on the field except Willie Gay. And that's where I think the vulnerability is going to come in without Willie on the field.
Yeah. I'm with you. And BW, you're right. You're right. It is turf. I just assumed, like most of those AFC North teams, that it was nice and grassy. They like to play that. So that's on me. Appreciate the correction.
And it's on a turf field. It's all about drainage, right? I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
But what it comes down to is just playing in the wet and that kind of thing. As good as Lamar's been, I will still give Patrick the edge in throwing the ball in these conditions. If it's raining actively, I think that doubles, to tell you the truth. But that's not the game plan. This is an old-fashioned slug it out, play power on power, and that's what I'm concerned with, because if you don't get out to a lead and force the Ravens into more of a throwing offense than what they want to do and sit back and run the ball, then you put yourself in some exposure. With Edwards out in particular, I do feel that you have guys that you feel can do the job. We're going to talk about the Ravens secondary coming up, but this secondary has enough horses to run with this Ravens team, in my opinion. Do you think I'm overestimating what they can do without Edwards on the field?
Not at all, but I think he's going to play. The fact that he was a full practice participant, we saw last week on 6 days rest, the Buffalo Bills clear their secondary member who was in a concussion protocol. We have full participant. We have limited on Thursday. I think that Edwards is going to play in this football game. So even if he doesn't, they still have the guys. The problem would be, bringing Deion Bush in there and finding a way to get him lined up on someone like a Isaiah Likely. That's not the ideal situation you want to have happen, but they do have enough in their arsenal to be able to overcome that. Maybe you see in that event, I don't know, maybe a little more Nick Jones, because maybe I'm just throwing stuff out there. I really don't know. But the fact that Deion Bush is more of an experienced guy, I have less concerns about, because he's played well for this team. I think he played decently enough in his time last week with Edwards out, and a full week of preparation and knowing that you're going to be playing does help as well. But I think that Edwards is going to play in this football game, and that's honestly, it's huge for them. It's huge because of what Mike Edwards does. He is that kind of hole in the zone defender. He waits, he looks at the eyes, and if you can get pressure, you might be able to get an errant throw or two. And guess who's come down with that? It's going to be Mike Edwards more likely than not.
And a lot of his plays come right down the seam, which is exactly where they're going to want to attack with Mark Andrews, who is going to play in this game. He is activated as of today, folks. He will be out there. Luckily, Edwards versus Andrews. Andrews is a good athlete, but he's not an extreme athlete. And I do feel like because he's just coming off, like there's a chance to defend that. The question becomes then, what happens to the rest of their offense? Is it just run, try to get it to Edwards? No, I don't think so. I think you have other viable receivers that they can try to go to if they're forced into it. But that, again, plays into L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie and understanding that Justin Reed's still out there. And whether it's Edwards, whether it's Reed, whether you get Jamari Connor on Andrews from time to time, they're going to be able to mix it up enough that I think this game comes down to my number one have to have is Spagnuolo full in the kitchen with all the pots boiling because he's got to cook up as much misdirection as possible. And if he does that, it'll force Lamar Jackson to hold the ball a little bit longer than he wants to, and that is a good thing.
What I think we might have to see is L'Jarius Sneed falling around, Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
Because Zay Flowers is the one guy that I don't think that he's going to be able to get off the press. I know that he's quick side to side. You want to know who's quicker? Tyreek Hill. And you want to know who jammed him at the line of scrimmage? L'Jarius Sneed. I'm not super worried about change of direction with Odell Beckham Jr. or Rashad Bateman, who has been better, but still not the athlete he was coming out.
True.
I'll be very honest with you. Obviously, I'm not going to tell Spags how to do his job. You do you because you've been doing a fantastic job. But the one player I think that can hurt this team quickly, again, we're talking about having Lamar hold the football. It's Zay Flowers because he can get the ball quickly and turn that into yards after catch. And I know this team's very good, been much better this year at tackling, specifically taking those proper angles. Zay's a different animal. The secondary is better, probably better than anything that they've faced in terms of the man coverage and the press and the communication. I'll be very honest with that. I had no disrespect to what the Cleveland Browns did, but I watched Indianapolis throw for like 400 yards on that secondary. Not something you see happen to the Kansas City Chiefs secondary. So what I'm worried about is I love Trent McDuffie. We know in the slot you play off coverage. Tyler Boyd last year in the AFC Championship game got him multiple times. Tyler Boyd is not the athlete that Zay Flowers is. So maybe we see a little bit different. Or they just ask Trent to be more physical at the line of scrimmage with Zay Flowers because you have to throw the timing off. You have to, or Lamar will get that ball out very quickly. So I'm with you.
It's funny that you bring up the Cleveland Browns because that was the last legitimate loss the Ravens had.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. The Chiefs defense, I feel, is better than the Browns were at all during this season. Certainly how they ended the season. Let's be accurate there. And they lost, the Ravens lost that game by 2 points. I don't expect much more of a margin in this game either way. And for me, it comes down to how did you get him there? That's the big question. And can you force Lamar Jackson into not having what he wants enough that it throws off his game? Because if you go back and look at Cleveland, he only threw 23 passes in that ball game. It was one of the lower on the season. Not as low as last week, obviously, because they had that giant lead. He only threw 21 passes against the Dolphins. But he only had 56% completion rate in that game for an under 10 yard per attempt and through multiple turnovers. That's the key. It all comes back to making him hold a little bit longer and making him have to make a decision that the Chiefs have either disguised into something else or they have the angles to make the takeaway. The Chiefs lose this game if they don't win the turnover battle. I don't mean even, I don't mean minus. They have to win. They have to come out plus on the turnovers to win this ballgame.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. And when you look at the Browns defense, what's one thing they don't do? What's one thing Jim Schwartz doesn't really do at all? He never changes the picture. He shows you what you're going to get. And he said, we're just going to play. We're going to play our best way, and that's the only way Jim Schwartz knows how to play, and I love him to death for it because he is a true tiger, doesn't change his stripes. But what we have here in Kansas City is a chameleon. Spags does not want you to know what's coming. He doesn't want you to know when it's coming, and he doesn't want you to know how it's getting there. So the one thing that I do think you can get Lamar with right now a little bit, he's much better processing things after the snap than he probably ever has been in his career. You change the picture on him. Again, you forced that hesitation. You have to force him consistently to hesitate. And one thing that I was reading about this week, a great piece from Benjamin Solak from The Ringer. If you guys if you haven't read it, you don't follow him, do that and go read this article about the Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens defenses playing against shifting offenses. Like, they're the best in the NFL playing against offenses that move and have those pre-snap motions and being able to hide what they're doing even up to that. So what I'm doing with this team is that we see them motion around a lot still with Baltimore, and they're going to bring in their 21 personnel, their 12 personnel. At the end of the day, this is going to come down to, hey, Leo Chenal, which letting you guys know right now, he's my X factor for this football game on the defensive side. He's going to play quite a bit because they're going to be in base quite a bit. This is going to be a Leo. I don't care what you have to do. You go wreck everything you possibly can. You get downhill. You attack. You take Patrick Ricard. You take at that block and you do what you have to do. This is a muddy up the backfield. Get everybody back there and make it as big of a mess as you possibly can in the run game. This is there's no tomorrow. This is a different animal than the Buffalo Bills were, an injured defense. You got to take your shots. You got to take it because your offense might not have the same efficiency as it did last week. It's going to be a little bit different. You're going to be seeing more blitzes. He did not blitz Josh Allen almost at all last week because, in my opinion, they felt they could move the ball on offense. And so he was like, we'll just wait this out. We'll wait it out till the fourth quarter. I think early in this game, you have to come with different pressure packages, run blitzes specifically. And Leo Chenal is going to be very impactful for that. So I think he needs to have a very big day and just create some havoc in the backfield.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think he's built for it. The X factor on the other side for me is Isaiah Likely, because they're going to try to force a matchup with Leo and Likely, because Likely makes some big plays. He's got the athleticism edge on Leo by a bit, mostly in change of direction. Long speed, I think they're actually pretty close. But that's going to is recognizing how they're attacking you, because they're going to try to get him in space. If you're able to kind of wipe out the run game early, we saw the Bills go away from it. We've seen lots of teams go away from it when the Chiefs are able to stymie it early. That's a tall task for this Ravens team. But if you were to get there, then it becomes about where's the weakest link that they can attack. And my guess is going to be, without Willie Gay out there, it's going to be the linebackers, and it'll probably be first look at Leo. So it's a tough call.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not sure what Mark Andrews is going to be able to do first game back off an ankle injury. Let's not forget, it's an ankle injury. So we'll find out how much he plays. The fact that Isaiah Likely has been so good for them, they might lean away from playing him a ton. But when he's out there, you have to pay attention to him. You can't just forget that he's out there, because he's still the top 4 tight end of the NFL. So that's something you have to look at. And this defense just, I think, like I said, I think we're going to see a much larger amount of pressures. Look at that first half against the Texans. They held them to 10 points. It was a tie game. Granted, it was a punt return that kept it close, but they only allowed the Ravens to score 10 points. And that was largely because the Texans were like, we can't really do much defensively, so we're going to come out and just play a bunch of man coverage, cover 0, and come at you that way. Big difference in this game. Spags is going to play zone coverage, and he's going to blitz. That's a big difference, because it's not just Lamar throwing up to a prayer. You got eyes on the quarterback. When you have eyes on the quarterback, you can drop players into passing lanes. You can keep those safeties where they're going to be. You can rotate into passing lanes. Again, that's a huge thing that Spags is going to do, that the offense, I think Todd Monken's going to have a plan for, but sometimes you don't always see everything coming. So I think that advantage-wise, Spagnuolo, specifically in his second half adjustments after the first half, has a decided advantage in seeing how they're going to adjust, because they have been the best second half defense in the NFL in pretty much the entire season, large part because Chris Jones plays football in the second half of the game. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see this chess match. It's going to be, in the coordinating matchups in this football game are amazing. They're fantastic. And I can't wait to watch this game play out the way it's going to. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a great challenge. And everything that you said, I agree with. And I just want to double down and reiterate for everyone, all those changes and being able to stay in those zones is predetermined on whether you can stop that run. Because if you don't, you're going to have to drop one of the safeties in and you're going to have to go man. And that plays into what Lamar wants. I think that they're capable of managing the run. I don't think they can stop it, but they can manage it to a point that it's not score after score after score. If they can do what they did, even in partiality to the Bills, where you limit in the first half, say half of the series that score, if you can keep those to field goals, you can get ahead of the chains in terms of scoring against this team. I do like them to do that, and I think that they have a good shot. You guys, we're going to go through our predictions coming up here in a bit, but I do want to get to what is my favorite part of this point, because we like to support the people that support us, and you guys always support us. We very much appreciate you, and it's always a good time. We're going to get back to your questions to wrap it up, but right now, we're going to get to our picks and who's going to perform where. As we gave you some of our X factors, we're going to double down on that right now, because you can go out to Underdog and get in the action as well. You can get a first deposit match right now by using our code RGR at Underdog Fantasy. We're going to walk you through how to do a pick 'em right now, which is available again in the area back home in Chiefs Kingdom. I have a slightly different view because of where I live, but it lets you get in all the details that you want. And this matchup is incredible. We're going to talk about some of this, but here's the gist. What you get to do is take a look at the numbers that they put up. They're going to give you what they think is going to happen. You're going to choose whether it's higher or lower. You're going to string a couple of those together, at least 4, but you can go 5, as we're about to show you in a pick 'em, and actually get your money in on what you think is going to happen according to you. And that's always my favorite. We're going to flip off of the stats, and we're going to go to Underdog, and we're going to start with old Patrick Mahomes here, because they have him set at 19.25. Now, you look at what he's done recently. He has not broken that mark. Between the conditions and the Ravens defense, I think he's going to be efficient. I think he's able to get the W. I don't think it's going to go over those points, though. I'm taking the lower on this.
I think you have to take the lower with the rain and the fact that this is one of the best defenses that Mahomes has ever played, not just this season, ever played. It's not going to be this walk in the park in the AFC Championship game against the Bills a few years ago where they had the best team, but their record was largely because they played bad teams. Now, this is a tried and true Baltimore Ravens defense, and I expect him to be efficient, get the job done, and still 2 touchdowns throughout the air, which I expect him to throw 2 touchdowns. It's not enough to get to that fantasy mark point, or the point mark.
Absolutely. And that's due to the scoring here, folks. He only gets 4 points for throwing a touchdown. And that's the scoring system that we have to be aware of. So it's not like we don't think Patrick's going to perform, because I do. In fact, the way that I think I'm going to get screwed on this is because if they get down to the red zone and he runs one in,
he might run one in.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, then we're in trouble. But the really interesting thing to me is where it's got Lamar at 23.5.
Yeah.
And I just don't see that happening. Yes, if you throw 5 touchdowns against Miami, you're going to get it. If you run 2 in against the Houston Texans, you're going to get it. I don't necessarily see either of those things happening. I see it more of a line similar to like what he had against the Niners. I think he'll have more rush yards. I don't know if he's going to have more pass yards. I don't know how many touchdowns he throws. Again, the question for him is going to be, does he run one in? And I'm really on the fence here. You're going to have to make this decision, because I don't know what to do.
Man. We got burned last week because of the Josh Allen rushing touchdowns, which I did tell you was probably going to be the area that was a problem. Again, I still think Lamar's live to rush twice on the ground for touchdowns. I'll be honest. I'm taking the lower on Lamar Jackson in points this week. I think this Chiefs defense is going to be inspired. And again, I don't think he's the passer that Josh Allen is. He's a much better passer than he has ever been in his career, but he's not who Josh Allen is. So you might be able to get him in some of those 3rd down situations, and he's not going to lateral a pass backward, forward, or whatever that was, for a 1st down. I just don't see this being the kind of game where the quarterbacks put up 25 fantasy points. I just don't see that.
Fair enough. I'm surprised. I actually thought you were going to take the other, because
I'm telling you, if once again, if it's the reason we don't get this one is because Lamar rushes it twice. That's why.
Yeah, you're probably right. Now, staying with the Chiefs side of it, Isaiah Pacheco is slated right now at 13.05. I think that's well within striking distance. It has to be, if they're going to win this game, he's got to score more than that. So I'm taking the higher either way, right?
Oh yeah, you just keep doing it. The guy keeps churning it out. You just keep taking it.
So we've got 3 selections. We need 5 to get this entry in. Would you rather pick Zay or Gus?
I mean, look at Gus's points is just frustrating to me. Like that's. Do I think he gets in the end zone? No. So he would have to rush for like 80 yards. Look at his point totals the last. No, let's go the lower on Gus Edwards.
Okay.
I'm
more scared of Justice Hill anyway, to tell you the truth.
I am too. He more represents what James Cook did to this defense than Gus Edwards. So that's where I'll be.
And for our last, we are definitely going to take our guy because I think this is pretty telling. Buffalo did limit him.
Yeah.
I don't think that was just Buffalo. I think that was part of the game plan.
I agree.
I don't think it had to be. And if somebody's going to catch the ball that isn't Travis Kelce, it's going to be him. I expect more targets. I expect more catches. I expect more than 10 fantasy points.
Yeah, I do too. And you kind of this is a bring all of your dogs to the show. This is what this is. Rashee Rice has been your guy. Last week, they knew that Travis Kelce was going to have a day. You know, we talked about it on the game plan before. Like, this is the Travis Kelce game. This is the Rashee Rice game. It has to be. You have to continue to get the ball in his hands.
And I'll tell you this is the line that I find interesting too.
He's going to play.
Marlon Humphrey is not 100%. Will he play? I do think he plays. But he's their best matchup corner. Rocky Sin, I don't know if he plays. We'll talk about that. Yeah. Either way, I feel like Rashee Rice has the advantage in this matchup. Marlon Humphrey's a great player, but if he's not 100%, I think Rashee can get the job done to get 10.5 points.
I'm with you. I think he's going to. I think he gets in the end zone this week too.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. If we put it on the line, I mean, just a $50 entry fee. You want insured, or are we going for it?
I think we're going for it. I think we're going for it.
Sold.
I like how I feel this week. I like this one.
Okay. Folks, that's how it's done. You can get into the action at Underdog Fantasy and just use our code RGR and you get that $100 match. That goes a very, very long way. We appreciate you checking it out. Help the folks that help us, and they have been some great sponsors so far this season, and we look for better things to come coming down the line, so don't miss it. That brings us to any player shout-outs that we haven't mentioned yet in terms of matchups or you think are going to have a direct outcome on this game. I have a few, and then we'll get to your questions, folks.
This is great. This is the kind of game that you sign a big contract for. I'm looking at you, Juwan Taylor. This is the game that you got signed for. You got signed to get better and to protect Patrick Mahomes, regardless of it being left or right side. You, right now, outside of Creed Humphrey, are the best offensive lineman that the Chiefs have. This has got to be your best game. Do the same thing you did last week. No one say your name. No one said Juwan Taylor's name last week. He didn't get penalized. It was 100% button-lipped. And this is a game where away the Chiefs will have more of the stuff they did against the Bills, where their snap counts are different. They're gonna try to mix it up a little bit because it's going to be loud, but also the Ravens defense, much like the Chiefs, are very good at waiting until the last second to move their defense. So you have to catch them off guard a few times. You do that, you'll be able to find some plays and get some explosives. Go watch the Rams versus the Ravens. The way they were able to win that not win, but we pretty much should have won that football game, is they ran the ball early and it opened up the explosives. If they can do that, they will be able to find some explosives in this football game. Baltimore's defense will be overly aggressive. They're a very aggressive defense. So if you start churn away 7 yards at a time, you are going to get Roquan Smith coming downhill in your face. And that's when you can get some explosives, because for everything that I think Patrick Queen is, he's also going to trigger downhill. You can
Mhm.
move him with eyes.
can
You can
get
move
him
him
coming.
with misdirection. So you can open up the middle of the field. So right now, I'm going to look at Juwan Taylor and I'm going to tell him you got a big money contract this offseason. And last week was a great game. We need 2 more. Chiefs Kingdom needs 2 more great games out of you if you want to have maybe that contract a little bit longer, because the penalties aren't going to do it anymore. So I'm going to challenge Juwan Taylor to have his best game as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs.
And I think he's got a good shot at it. I think you're going to see Clowney mostly on him. We'll see. He's got the athleticism advantage there. As long as he doesn't let himself get overpowered and put on his heels, I think he's okay there. If they switch, say, Owe onto him, I don't think Owe is 100%. I just want to say that, to preclude. He's still got the athleticism advantage there. Again, it's about his mental makeup and not making the mistakes. They might throw Moon at him. I think Kyle Van Noy is probably the guy that has the most tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah.
Due to the experience.
Stay in the league as long as he has. Yeah, you got some tricks up your sleeve.
I think that's probably the one thing that you worry about. This is really strength on strength. If it were Joe Thuney, I would say the Chiefs offensive line overall has the advantage.
I agree.
Because it's Nick Allegretti, I think it's even. They might even be at a disadvantage because Madubuike inside, that their guy Pierce is pretty good too.
Yes.
Travis Jones is coming on. You got Washington. They have a nice interior that's going to go up against the Chiefs interior, and it's strength on strength. So for me, it's about who can break out and just have a slight edge so that you can repeat. I see a lot of questions, a lot of folks coming in late to the chat. Make sure you like and sub and hit that bell, because then you would have got a notice that we were live. We talked about Willie way up front. Willie's questionable. We hope that he plays, but it is a neck. And we don't know what the status. It will likely be a game time decision and an active kind of situation there as well. So that said, who on the pass catchers can scare me? We talked about likely. Other than that, I'm not super nervous. I know you like Zay. I'm just hoping this isn't like the Bateman breakout year, because he hasn't been in the spotlight that much,
Yeah, and he, like I said, he's been getting better, but he's still not the route runner that he was in coming out. Those injuries have taken a toll. And right now, those receivers aren't really dropping footballs. They're doing a good job of being efficient with their targets. And that's what Rashad Bateman's done best this year, is be efficient with those targets, specifically lately. So if use the weather to your advantage, maybe. Get in his hip pocket a little bit, make him feel uncomfortable. And at the catch point, he's not going to break you off. Just swat the ball a little bit, try to get in there and make him drop a few passes. I think that this game is going to come down to a couple drops because of the weather. In games like this, you have to have sure hands, and not everyone's going to. You have to find a way to get inside some of these receivers' heads, because at the end of the day, we saw that happen to the Bills, and it wasn't raining then. They had drops in key moments. Stephon Diggs, Trent Sherfield had drops that drastically impacted the outcome of that football game. It's going to be the same thing here. The Chiefs didn't have drops against the Bills. You can't be having drops in these big games, and that's what this, for me, it comes down to. So it's for the only receiver that I'm truly worried about, like breaking off an explosive play, is Zay Flowers. Everyone else, I think the Chiefs can contain.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. The question will be who steps up for the Chiefs, who can be that.
Yeah.
Tony has practice. He's listed as questionable as well. I don't think you can count on him. I've heard nothing that says he'll definitely be back there. So we're going to go through your questions here, folks. Some of them have already been answered. We'll run through real quick. Jesus was, can the Ravens crowd affect the Ravens defense? I think they do. And I think that's some of what Marcus Williams, comments were this week. That can certainly help them out. But the Chiefs are pretty impervious to crowd noise. I'm not worried about the Chiefs offense against the Ravens crowd. Are you?
No, Mahomes has a better record on the road than he does at home. So, yeah, I'm not worried.
Chris, as we understand, Pacheco will go. He is listed on the list, injury list, but we understand that he is good to go. They're resting that tone. It's precautionary. James, without Willie, who will spy Lamar? You're going to see, I think, a mix. I don't think you can leave Leo on it. They'll probably start with him just because I don't think you want to march Drew out there right away. But I do think if Lamar starts getting loose, it's probably due to change of direction, not overall speed. And that's going to need Drew Tranquil, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I wish Cam Jones was around. There's another really good
That'd be nice.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
A guy that can run with Lamar, but nope. IR will get you. Dr. Tyler Durden, thanks for the super chat. We appreciate you guys. Last call for super chats, and we'll get those in here. Did you guys see that Pat's IG post playing all the analysts doubting him? I think he takes it personal like MJ, and it fuels his fire. I mean, yeah, there's been a lot of we called him MJ last year going into the playoffs, and there's been a lot more of like the national media jumping on that. And Mr. Durden, or sorry, Dr. Durden, you have that absolutely correct. The difference is it's not necessarily about Pat this time. It's about his offensive line. It's about Nick Allegretti stepping up. It's about Pacheco continuing to do, I think, better than we've seen him do ever in terms of hitting the hole and getting downhill and not wasting a whole lot of motion. I think it's about everybody else but Pat. That's the guy I'm not worried about right now.
No, and I hope that it kind of brings everyone else to the table, because they're not just doubting Mahomes, they're doubting everybody on the team. No one really, at this point, I don't think anyone doubts what Mahomes can do. I really don't believe it. If they're saying it, they don't believe it, what's coming out of their mouth. They doubt everybody else. They doubt the other playmakers. So while they're dogging on the Chiefs, who they're dogging on is Marquez, McCole Hardman, and Justin Watson. Everybody that's not the guys that have stepped up, that's what they're dogging on. So I'm hoping that everyone this entire week is seeing what's going on and again continues. Someone's got to step up outside of Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce in this football game. This is the offense flows through them, but it sustains because of those players. And that's the big difference, is you can have the offense flow through your star players. It's sustained by everybody else. So who's it going to be this week? I'm sure we'll answer that question coming up.
Yeah, we are definitely going to get there. Thank you, Dr. Durden. Appreciate it, you guys. Every super chat gets an answer. If you want them in, we're going to wrap up here in a little bit, so get them in now. Chris, if the Chiefs have to control the clock like Buffalo did and score no turnovers, absolutely on the turnovers, you can't give the ball away. I do feel like positive time clock management, having more time is probably a good thing. But I think the bigger thing is not to let the Ravens control the clock. If it's even or, 35-25 at the end of the game, I think that's still winnable for the Chiefs. It's just if it gets to you only held the ball for 20 minutes, that's a problem that probably leads to a Chiefs loss.
Yeah, and the Chiefs realistically, stylistically can't do that. They can't. They don't have the run game, and this Ravens defense is not the Chiefs interior. It doesn't only come to play in the second half of football games. I'll be honest. That's what it felt like last week. And it felt like the defense just was like, well, wait, we're going to wait this out. And I'm not sure what it's going to take. But the Baltimore Ravens are not going to allow them to control the ball that way. It's going to be different. So it'll be short passes. It won't be always just ground, pound, everything, because Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen allow things to be a little bit different. Patrick, you don't want running that way. Scrambles, sure, great. He does a fantastic job doing that, but he's not an active part of the run game, nor should he be. So it's a little bit different. If they're going to control the ball that way, it's going to be with the short passes and combination of that in the run game.
I'm glad you brought it up because that's exactly where I was going with this one from Oregon. 12 and 13 personnel sets work this weekend. No great breakout game. If Noah Gray is going to break out, it's going to be on short passes.
Correct.
Because he does not have the athleticism to run away from Roquan Smith or even Patrick Queen, and certainly not Kyle Hamilton, who's going to be monitoring where he is. I love the idea of the 13 personnel. I think we will see a lot of 12. I actually think that it can rope-a-dope them a little bit because I think if they see 13, they're going to want to pack the box. And then I think you're going to have an opportunity to get a shot.
They don't, though. Statistically speaking, the Ravens do not stack the box against 12 and 13 personnel. They just don't do it. So I think we're going to see far less 13 personnel in this game. You'll probably still see a good amount of 12 because they'll still be they'll match with nickel. They'll still play nickel. They will still play nickel, and they'll be probably pretty good against it because they have Kyle Hamilton and they have a lot of different ways to get to their quote unquote base like the Chiefs do while still playing against 12 personnel. So I don't know if we're going to see Blake Bell at all this week, to be very honest with you.
I'm actually fine with that, to tell you the truth.
I mean,
except for the fact
in
that
13, because you'll probably still see him.
yeah, he'll still be out there. I like the idea of 13 because I think if, as you said, they don't generally do that, but Pacheco's been running well and he's been a mainstay. If they can get off on the run early, I think he might be able to break that tendency for the Ravens. And if you break a tendency, you can break the whole defense.
I hope so.
That's going to be one of my tenets. If you can do it, I like the idea of 13. Thanks, Oregon. Great question. Micah, will Tony be active? He practiced all week. It's certainly possible. They listed him as questionable, which leads me to think that active, yes. I don't know how much he's going to play, but we probably won't know until pregame. Austin, to Mike Edwards, clear protocol. He has not officially cleared protocol yet, but he has progressed each day in terms of his practice level. That is usually a good sign that he'll be close. They probably won't announce until tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sean, what's our injuries outlook? Linebacker Willie in or not? We don't know, but it's looking unlikely. And we talked about who will spy. So here's the big question. And this is what I'm going to leave to you, because you have a better gut feeling for it than I do right now, because I trust absolutely no one other than Rasheed in that room.
So,
who,
Samuel,
other than Rasheed and Travis, will help Pat out.
You guys are going to hate my prediction here. You're going to hate it because this is not what usually happens. But I feel like this might be a little storybook against the Ravens. Mecole Hardman redemption arc this week. I think he's going to make a couple of plays as a wide receiver because they need him to be used that way. I'll be very honest with you. Much like we talked about with Kadarius Toney. Stop using him on these end arounds. Stop doing it. What did he do well against the Chargers defense in week 18? He ran routes. He caught the ball. He attacked the ball through traffic. Some things he never really does. So I've got to see them use him a different way. I've got to see them use him as a wide receiver and find a way to get him one-on-one. Because I'll tell you right now, he's got more speed than this defense. He does. They're a good unit. They have some speed. I'll tell you right now, he's got more speed than any one of those guys. And if he can get loose, I would not be shocked to see Patrick and him link up for a deep touchdown in this football game. But it comes down to forcing the Ravens to respect the run game, first and foremost. If they respect the run game, you will be able to get a guy or two deep in this football game. It's all about hitting it.
Well, we lost Dan, or I'm having issues, so I'll just keep talking anyway.
Maybe.
In case it's me.
I stopped right there anyway.
You will be able to get a big deep play on play action in particular. Sorry, Dan, we lost you there for a minute just as you were wrapping.
Yeah, I think I stopped like right as I left, so it's all good.
Okay. But to get that big play action is the key. And I will tell you this, I expect Patrick to be throwing to his left a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the guy who had the worst outing last week against CJ Stroud was their right corner, Brandon Stevens. Now, especially if you can get the run game going and you can play action in. A little bit higher tick in play action last week against the Bills than it was the week before. A little bit more than it was against the Bengals. You continue to move that. And I think this is the kind of game where you can have maybe your biggest play on a terrible weather game on play action and attack their weakest point. And that's what I would do. So if you see Rasheed out wide on the left-hand side of the formation, just keep an eye on it. I think they're going to want to, I personally would do a little bit different concept. I would try to get Rasheed in the slot a little bit more and actually run him on some wheels and some out and ups, because I think that's a great way to get him singled up on the weakest corner they have.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me to see either of these guys do it. Like, I think Justin Watson is just as live to have a couple big plays in this game too. Like it's somebody, and I know Watson's done it consistently really for the Chiefs this year. I have this entire feeling in my gut about last week being so the otherworldly bad from Mecole Hardman in usage and how it went. It just feels like with the way Travis defended him this week on his podcast, it feels more like they want him to be involved. And like we talked about, I do think that he needs to be a point of the offense, usage with the misdirection and deep routes to open things up. And at the same time, if your defense is so much focused on Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice, you can slip Mecole out there. You can get a one-on-one with a safety. I think that the opportunity will be there.
I agree. And I just made this realization. Rashee Rice did not play for SMU in 2021, did he?
Yes, he did.
He did in 21?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Then he and Brandon Stevens were teammates.
Yes.
Okay. I just made that connection. I missed that initially. So that makes me feel even better about where Rasheed's going to be in this particular matchup if they can get it isolated. I think isolation will be the key in that. So
yes.
look to see what they do for it. And so Samuel had the same question. I think we've addressed that.
Yeah.
Any last super chats? We'll get that done. Samuel, I think we answered the question. We don't know if Tony will play. We will find out. Game time decision. That's a good question, Quentin. I don't recall, Dan. I don't know if you do.
He did. It was that. It was what he had like 2 big touchdowns in the game that they played on Monday night a few years back, and it was
right.
That's
one
the
of them was
game
on Marcus, right?
Yeah, one of them was. Like
this
is. I'm telling you guys. So I'm feeling some way about a McCall Hardman redemption arc this week. I really am.
I like it. Jesus, you're absolutely right. Rain is going to be a huge factor. It might be the number 1 factor.
Yeah.
I am going to I'm going to let you do your prediction first, and then I will follow up.
All right, guys. Now, we talked about the ways that the Chiefs can win this football game. We both think this is going to be very, very close. I don't expect either team to get blown out. I've done a fair amount of research on this game, and I feel like these injuries right now for Kansas City do not help. It is with great solace that I believe the Chiefs will lose this football game to the Baltimore Ravens 20-17. And it's Justin Tucker instead of Harrison Butker kicking the game-winning field goal for the Ravens.
What do you think is the main problem?
I don't think that I legitimately think that this Ravens defense is the best defense that they may have ever played, that Patrick's ever played. And at the end of the day, other players don't step up. They don't follow through. Patrick is doing a lot of the things that he always does. He's getting the ball to them, and either they're dropping it or they're not creating separation. I have a lot of trouble with it. And again, I also believe that Patrick can will this team to a win. Obviously, we've seen it happen. So if I'm wrong, obviously that'd be fantastic, and I'll be wrong in that moment. I'm totally okay with it. But I want you guys to understand that and not just this Chiefs homer that always picks the Chiefs. I don't feel like they win this game. That's my own opinion. So there you have it.
Fair enough. I also think it's a absolutely close game, but I am on the other side of it because I think as good as the Ravens have been, I don't think they've played anyone like the Chiefs yet. And so I'm not going to take away anything from their Steelers win. I'll give them credit. They slowed CJ down, who a lot of teams have not been able to as well. Yeah. Patrick's a whole different beast. So
I agree.
I see this as a slugfest. I see a few more points than you. To me, the number 1 key is if they get some kind of quick pressure on Allegretti, particularly on his inside Donovan, and a pass gets batted or knocked around and it gets turned over, that's going to be a big nail in their coffin. But I think that they're going to be able to manage that. I think they're going to throw over the top of it. And I think they're probably they might even roll him a little bit to the right. We'll see if he gets out of the pocket purposefully or not. But either way, I think this is about Pacheco and Kels and getting it to him early and being quick about it. I see the Chiefs winning 23-21, maybe having to kick that field goal at the end to get it done. But I do think they get it done. So leave us your prediction in the comments. We'd love to see what they are and just see, are you Team Dan or are you Team Ryan? That's just what I want to know.
I understand, guys. Everyone's going to be a Team Ryan. That's fine. I trust me. My heart of hearts, my fan, I always want them to win. And I want them to win this football game. You know,
you're not alone.
No, there's a lot of, I'm getting a lot of support, and I appreciate you guys. But I want you to know that there has to be, at least for me, an understanding that this team all season long couldn't really get it on the right track. And I think that last week against the Bills was a fantastic effort against a depleted team, and they won by 3 points.
Yeah, I agree. Cato, I appreciate you saying that. It's a fun hoodie. It's one of my favorites, and I think I have the banner link in the show notes where you can go grab it from the RGR store. If you search RGR store on Google, you'll find it as well. But if I click here real quick, I can probably tell you where it is. It's bit.ly. It's bit.ly/RGR store. And it is case sensitive. So that's the big problem with Bitly's. RGRS has to be capitalized in order to get that thing done. But check it out. I appreciate you. Bottom line is, this season comes down to this ball game, and no one thought that it would. We're lucky that we're here.
That's it.
And no one thought the Chiefs would be. So revel in it one way or the other. I'll be on a plane pregame. You guys will know the inactives before I do. I guarantee you that. But I'll be on the ground in Mobile for the Senior Bowl starting that night. I'll see the second half live. We will go as soon as we possibly can. But it is winter. And last year I said that, and I ended up in Pensacola, and I didn't get to the hotel till midnight. So you never know what's going to happen. But hey, we appreciate you. Dan has this on lock. Hold it against him that he was honest, and he sees it just a little bit differently than me. We hope he isn't right, but you never know. In the end, your actual opinion is what matters. So if you're watching this on replay, put yours down below. We appreciate you. Dan, enjoy your weekend until it's game time.
Oh, yeah, guys. I'm driving down to Mobile on a Sunday, so I'm going to leave really early so I can get to my hotel before the game starts, because I am not going to listen to that football game. I'm going to watch it. No thanks.
I'll be watching the first quarter on the plane. All right, you all have a good one. We are going to be down in Mobile together next week. You'll see us do some things. We might do some separately. We might do some in the same room. We'll figure it out when we're down there, because quite frankly, everything goes out the window when I get to Mobile. It never actually works. So, but it'll be fun. Enjoy your weekend and get ready for that ball game. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Have a good one.